All right. Hello, everybody. I know the stream is like, 10-second delay or something. So we'll give people a few minutes to get in. But I'm really excited to do this with Harry. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I think this will be really informative. We'll try to make it as laid back as possible, just a conversation amongst friends.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's fun. A lot of people would record this podcast sort of, offline with just the two of us, but I kind of like to have, people available because sometimes people have questions and sometimes they have better questions than the ones I have.
Yep.
Hey, Howard. Yeah, good to see you guys. And I think the Instagram stream is a bit of a pain to go live on. So let me just get that going while we're waiting.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, if you're watching, feel free to throw a comment in the Facebook or the YouTube chat, and we'll see it up on our screen and can respond.
Yeah, let us know where you're from, where your NEMT business is, and how long you've been doing this.
All right, we've got John Prisco, PR Mason, Howard Berkowitz. Good crowd today. Howard, good to see you again. And we should be going live on Instagram in 1 second.
Cool.
All right. Yes. Okay. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I think we're all good.
Yep. And I see the comments there.
Yep. Happy Wednesday. Yep. All right. Let's get started in just 1 second here. Making some tea to keep myself hydrated. This is thirsty work.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I think we can get going. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to chat with you today. If you're joining us live, feel free to drop your comments, questions. It's, enthusiasm in the comments as we go, and we'll see if we can get to it either, as we go or at the end of the scheduled question list I have. So my guest today runs marketing for more NEMT companies than anyone else I know. A lot of you probably already know him, Harry Chambers from Osborne Digital. He's the managing partner, and he does, websites, he does ads, he does the follow-up systems behind all those processes. Some of you may recognize him if you're a big fan of the Duet NEMT Growth podcast, because he was, on actually, I think the second guest ever on our podcast, right?
Yeah, I think, it's been a while, but I was the second guest ever.
Yeah. So we're, doing some more videos these days on the NEMT growth stack and how you bring in more private pay riders with all the rising costs of fuel and insurance and everything. Everyone's wondering, how do we bring in more private pay riders?
Yep.
And in my opinion, that really starts with your website. If you have a great website, you'll have a much easier time, Google ads, word of mouth, facilities, anything. It just sort of the website is the foundation for all of that. So
yeah, for sure. The website should kind of unify all of the information into one place, right? So having your reviews on your website. There's some other content things that we're going to talk about here shortly, but I think today's conversation is going to be really valuable just to understand what type of content should I be having on my website. We're not talking about SEO, like the back end technical side, which we'll talk about. We'll have a series for that, but just about content, strategy, pricing wise, like what type of stuff should you have on the website. So we're coming from the perspective of how to attract private pay clients, not anything outside of that. But I think the ideas that we give you on the content from a content perspective will also help you maybe attract facility contracts as well. So I think the content is universal for everyone to understand, easily readable. Let's kind of get into it, because I think there's going to be a lot of questions, and I think we'll have some great conversations about some of these top 5 as well.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about the stereotypical private pay visitor, like who is that person? What are they looking for?
Exactly. So private pay riders are essentially, if you're not familiar with what private pay is, it just means people who are paying out of pocket, right? So they're not on Medicare or Medicaid, all that kind of filters through the brokers. We're talking about people who essentially are paying for the rides themselves. So they are the normal consumer, right? So when you think about a consumer or a consumer mindset, that person has options, right? So in order for them to see you as the option, there's certain things that aesthetically, it has to be aesthetically pleasing, but there's certain things that they're looking for as well that you need to have on that website. So that's what a private pay consumer is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so someone comes to you, Harry, says, "Hey, can you take a look at my website? I think it might need some help." Walk me through like the first 60 seconds of opening up the website and flipping through it. Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I would say even the first 20 seconds, like if you send me a website and I say, hey, I wanted to take a look and audit it for me or redo it for me, I first make sure that the titling is important. So it's what we call the hero section. So a hero section is essentially where we land when we click on that website. So the hero section needs to say, medical transportation services, serving XYZ location. So the person knows what you do and where you are doing those services. So that's important. And also you want to have an image in the background from an aesthetic standpoint, but just from a verbiage standpoint, we want to make sure like, hey, the person knows when they click my website, this is a medical transportation company, and this is where we provide services, right? And then kind of underneath that hero section is usually where we're putting like the Google 5-star rated or even listing out the reviews. So from a consumer standpoint, it's very important that the person knows they first reach the right place and reach the right company, right? And reaching the right company has a lot to do with that reputation, right? What do other people say about the services that you provide? So we make sure that is first and foremost on the website, what you do, where you do it, and if you do it well, we post those reviews to the website.
So what do you feel like is the current state of NEMT websites? Like if I grab 10 NEMT websites at random and put them in front of you, how many of them are you looking at and being like, this is you nailed it? How many are like, this needs some work, but it's okay? And how many are like, you're losing tons of revenue, we need to...
Yeah, usually it's more of a question of how much content do I need to have, like a lot of verbiage. I think from a website perspective, a lot of people get caught up in the desktop version of a website, right? Which is great. People will go on their laptops, look up a company, but really understanding that most of your traffic, today's traffic in today's world is coming from a mobile device, right? So if you have these 3-4 length paragraphs about what you do on the mobile device, it's just a non-ending scroll of like, hey, what does this company do? And sometimes you can get consumer fatigue by reading through so much information on the website. So making sure that the content itself is straight to the point, succinct, it's in its own what we call containers, right? So it's you're easily able to navigate the page is important. But I think a lot of people get caught up in having so much content that they kind of miss the boat on like, hey, I just needed to be clear, succinct messaging about what we do and where we do it.
Yeah, I've had people tell me like literally, build your website when you're designing your website and you're reviewing the drafts of the website, do it on mobile. Like that's how important mobile traffic is, especially for NEMT. Like, people are, they're pulling it up on their phone, trying to book a trip really fast. So It doesn't make any sense to have a beautiful desktop website that is,
yeah, and again, I think there's a balance because there's still the like about us page that you can have that has a ton of information. If people want to read more information on the about us page, usually that's where I tell people you can kind of go a little crazy on some of the length of content. But like that home page, even if you have an about us section, it needs to be a simple, straight paragraph. You want the home page to be the hook, right? The information that says, yeah, this company looks like it knows what it's doing. If I want to learn more about the intricacies of how they do it and about the company history, have that put on the on that about us page to kind of where people can learn more information.
Yeah, 100%. So I think our promise with this podcast is like, hey, we're going to talk through the 5 must-haves, and there's all kinds of stuff we could talk about, but I want to make sure we go through those and really give each one the attention to detail it deserves, because this, I think, in many cases, missing or having these is the difference between someone booking a trip with you or not. So As I understand it, your first must-have is explaining your levels of service. Could you elaborate on what that means and how that should be implemented on a good NEMT website?
Yeah, for sure. So what we've learned over the years is consumers really want to understand what they're buying. A lot of people get confused with NEMT with like Uber, right? So making sure that you're setting yourself apart from that type of service, right? So when I mean level of service, I mean, are you doing curb to curb? Are you doing door to door? Are you doing door through door? Is this a full medical concierge service, right? So people can understand what they're looking at and what they're paying for, because people obviously will look to pay a premium if they are looking for premium services, right? But if you don't have like the service that you're providing on that website, sometimes people can get a little confused about what exactly you guys are offering that is different than an Uber or a taxi, right? So that level of service, giving people those options, especially on your book a ride page where people can choose, yep, I want curb to curb, or I want door through door, helping you understand from a customer, at least from a quote perspective, what you need to add to those quotes, but helping the customer understand what exactly are they purchasing from you. And I think the level of service, especially on the home page, is important. So like I said, as soon as they land, those are the important details that the private pay consumers want to know.
Yeah, 100%. And I know like it really does help you stand out for Uber if you emphasize like, hey, we will go door through door. We'll drop you off at your appointment. If you offer like a wait and return service, you're going to wait at the appointment for them to finish up and be there waiting when you take them home. You should really emphasize that, because that even if you're doing ambulatory, that will help you stand out from sort of the curb to curb Uber service.
Yeah, for sure.
So on to the second point here. You talk about having a dedicated service page versus just sort of listing some basic information on the homepage. Tell me more about, well, first of all, like why do we want a separate service page?
Exactly. So you should still have like a few services listed on the homepage. So I usually recommend having about 4 there, and then there's a button that says, hey, view all services, and it takes them to the services page. So the services page is meant to not only provide additional detail about the actual service itself, but it also helps optimize from a Google search perspective. So if people are searching wheelchair transportation, right, you want to make sure that your website has wheelchair transportation all over it, right? So on the services page, on the home page, has a description of what wheelchair transportation is, right? So it helps you optimize those particular people who are searching for that service. So the services page is essentially all of the services listed out with a short kind of excerpt, next to them. There's also a call to action says, get ride quote. It also, it'll go to the same page where they can request transportation. But it's important for the user to know, like, hey, we offer medical transportation, ambulatory transportation, transportation for seniors, wheelchair transportation, stretcher transport, right? So they can read through the details about the specific service that they're interested in. And then once they read through those details, they can click the button to get a quote, which takes them again to your book a ride page.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on breaking out the service page even further? Like I know some NEMTs have like, stretcher trips as its own page that you click in off of services, and wheelchair trips, ambulatory trips, bariatric wheelchair trips.
Yeah, having a drop down where every single page is a new service. Yeah, I think that works as well. The more content that you have, it only helps you from an optimization standpoint. So yes, even having a services drop down where hey, they can go to the page that has specifically wheelchair transportation, or the page that has specifically bariatric transport. I think that's a great idea as well.
And I think it's not necessarily, if you do a good job listing the services on its own page, that can work. I feel like the benefit of breaking it down really finely is that you can run a Google ad targeting like stretcher, and that stretcher ad goes to the stretcher page, and the wheelchair ad goes to the wheelchair page. And it's just helps you a little bit on Google. It's almost, you're writing it more for Google than for the
yeah, at that point, you're writing for the advertisements, right? So make sure that it's optimized. I know from a behavior standpoint, what we've seen through like Google Analytics, like people land on the stretcher page, they always go back to the home page and figure out, okay, yeah, who's just to learn more information, and then they end up going back to the stretcher page. Okay, yeah, this is what I want, right? So I think either or, what works, different markets, things work differently. So, but at least making sure you have either a dedicated services page that lists everything out, or break out those pages kind of one for one for each service that you have.
Yeah. So moving on, real reviews, like embedded in the website. Could you tell me more? Like, what is the best practice for that?
I know I've seen some crazy testimonial pages where it's like the default, testimonials, which is fine when you're first starting out. But over time, as you start to collect reviews, you really want to embed the real reviews on the website. So I'll give you a few examples. So through our transport CRM system that we have, of course, we have a whole reputation management section, right? So we have the Google Business Profile embedded into the platform. And as you get more reviews, you actually can install a widget on your website that's already collecting all those reviews automatically. So as you get new ones, the website's automatically being updated with all that information. But it's important because in today's world, those testimonials it's just like a quote and it has words, people are like, yeah, is it real? So making sure that people understand, like, yeah, these are real people who use our service. You can actually click here and go see the review from that person. I think that's very important. It just kind of adds to the credibility of not only the business, but also the website in general.
100%. And do you recommend like Google review? Like, you're asking people for Google reviews, or do you steer them toward Yelp, or where are you trying to?
Yeah, you can do it. You can do through multiple platforms: Google, Yelp, Facebook reviews. I know our little widget will bring all the reviews from all those different places and have them all posted. I would say from what I've seen, most companies, NEMT companies, have a Google Business Profile where they're usually collecting most of those reviews. But if you have multiple platforms, it's even better, because then now they can see it across different platforms, click on the review, go read it themselves. So it just gives them that feeling that, yeah, okay, this company gives good service, and I'm willing to reach out to them to provide service, or at least get a price estimate.
How do you handle a negative review? If someone gives you a kind of unfair 1-star review, do you still want to display that in your website to be transparent, or do you only include 5 stars?
Yeah, you can actually control from the widget, like what stars get shown. So if you want to, hey, I want to only show 3 stars and above on my website, or 4 stars and above, it will do that for you. So it'll filter it out for you. Because technically you don't want to show 1 stars, because they can go to the profile, and when they go to Google, they can see it, but at least on the website, we want to put our best foot forward, right? Even if we show our rating is like 4.8 or something like that. We understand that negative reviews happen, but in terms of displaying the negative reviews on the website, I definitely would not do that. And then of course, if you get negative reviews or spam reviews, you can always dispute those reviews through Google or through who your reputation management provider is.
Yeah. How do you think about like, how many reviews should people be shooting for? And is there a certain like cadence of reviews you need to be bringing in?
Yeah, I say when you're first getting started out, usually around 3 to 4, because if you have no reviews, Google's saying the profile is visible if people search the company, but they're not actually showing your business, like if you have 0 reviews, because they want to show companies that, from a reputation perspective, people will choose from. So usually when you start out, you want to get about 3 to 4 reviews just to make the profile visible. And then you want to have some type of process to automate that review capture process. And then over time, I would say when you start getting probably above 10 reviews, you really start showing more and more in the Google search, especially if they're positive reviews. So once you get to that over 10, I would say you're probably on track to start being shown repeatedly.
Makes sense. And I feel like I say this every podcast somehow. We always end up on the topic of Google reviews, but I've seen very good services who've been in business 15 years and they've got like 7 reviews and a 3-star rating because they never ask anyone for reviews. So the only people who bother to leave a review are the ones who had a 1 in 1,000 bad experience. Yeah. And so you can't emphasize enough what you're saying, like, hey, actually ask your people for reviews. Have your drivers ask, follow up with like a text message, have a QR code they can scan.
The QR code is QR code is very important because you can have that posted in the vehicle, right? So when people leave good service or say, hey, can I leave you a review, right? Your driver can, say, hey, here, scan this, and it'll take you to a place where you can leave a review. So that's important, especially if you're not going to automate the process of text messages and stuff like that. You at least want to have a mechanism inside of the vehicle so people can give, feedback actually during the time of service.
Yeah.
Hey, James, can you take a Q&A really quick? I'm going to grab my charger. I know we're having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to grab the charger for the for the screen cuts out.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Um,
30,
yeah, so
30 seconds.
if anyone has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. Got a couple of people show. What is it? Shehraya Ahmed, nice to meet you. Trucking with Stan with MedEase, welcome. PR Mason, okay, multiple people in Hampton Roads, Virginia, love it. Lake Worth, Florida. Anyone here going to NEMT, by the way? Or I'm going to be down there next week in Orlando, Florida. It's the biggest NEMT conference of the year. Yes, okay. PR Mason, I'll see you there. That's awesome.
All right, back and ready.
Should be a good one. Harry, are you going to be at NEMTAC?
I'm not going to be there this year. I was there last year here in Dallas, but I got the kids starting school next week, so it's kind of back to school time for us. But I wish I could be there. I think it's going to be really good.
I'll let you know how it goes. It's always like an interesting time.
Isn't it is it 4 days long this year? I think they extended
4 days,
the day, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's running Sundays, like starts Sunday noon through Wednesday.
Yeah, I know that. I know they mentioned they wanted to do it. They're going to add an extra day from last year when they had some really good success.
MedEase says hello.
Oh, that's Stan. Hey, Stan.
Yep. Howard, I think you're right. I think it starts in the evening on Sunday, not in the. Anyway, okay, so returning to the topic of websites. Where were we? Right. Okay, so next question, Harry. Tell me about photos, and what kinds of photos should you have on your NEMT website?
Yeah, man, I know it's a sensitive topic. So obviously, with the emergence of AI, right, everybody can create photos right through AI. They're easy to do. You can create photos that are branded with your logo. They look really, really great. I think we've probably gotten to a point now where people can at least tell if a photo is real or AI. I know the technology is getting more and more advanced each week. So a month from now, you may not be able to tell. But I think having a healthy mix of both is usually a good plan. So what we do when we bring on our customers, that we do use kind of stock images, at least stock images, maybe stock images in a mix of AI, because the company's just getting started, so they may not have professional photos that have been done. But over time, we really encourage people to, like, hey, when you're dropping off, customers in front of the hospital, make sure you step back and take a photo of the vehicle with the hospital in the background. And then we actually use that image and add it to your website. So it's important to have a really good mix of AI and kind of real photos, especially over time, because a lot of people, when they come to a website, they may get turned off. Like, okay, I see these images, but they look like they're fake. I don't know if this is a real company. So we want to just make sure that we're sending the message that, yeah, this is a real company. We do this. We do it well. Here's some sample photos of what it looks like. Especially if you have like some really, really great looking vans with your logo branded and stuff on there. We want to make sure that we are putting that in front of the customers.
Yeah, I love those. I love the photo of, like, the owner and the staff are standing there and smiling in front of the branded vehicle, or like the driver in the uniform is loading somebody in the wheelchair up into the vehicle. Everyone looks happy. They're glad to be there. You're in maybe some trees or something nice in the background instead of just
exactly. And when it comes to like websites, it's all about how, like, we use the word convert, like how well does your website convert? And all that means is, like, when somebody comes to the website, do they read through and say, hey, I'm gonna call, I'm gonna fill out the form? Those are what we call conversions, right? So depending on how well your website looks aesthetically, right, depends on how well it converts. So if you have real images, you have all the things that we've talked about earlier, your website is going to convert a lot better than your competitors because it has the right information on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely agree with you on AI. I think, like, you can, if you don't have pictures yet, like an AI image that you put some effort to and clean up a little bit and make sure it looks okay or a stock image is like a perfectly fine place to start. You can fold in your actual pictures as you go. I would say it's worth it once you're at a certain point to have a professional photo shoot.
Yeah. Oh,
But
absolutely.
you can also you can take a picture of your van in like, not the best lighting, not the best environment, and give it to ChatGPT or Gemini, Nano Banana 2, and say, hey, could you clean up this image and make it look better? Maybe you don't have your van wrapped out. You're like, hey, here's my logo. Could you put this logo on the van for me? It's not going to look as good as a professional photo shoot by any means, but you will at least have something that is not, on 50 other websites that Google's like, oh, this guy's just using stock images.
Yeah. And Howard, he made a great point here about sometimes people have AI images where it's like have a fleet of vehicles, and then like the insurance underwriters go look and say, oh, you're only insuring one vehicle. Like, why do you have an image of six vans on your vehicle, right? So really just making sure that you are compliant from a not on a legal perspective, from your insurance perspective is very, very important as well. And don't be discouraged by like, hey, I got one vehicle. Like, I have yet to see a consumer say, yeah, this company only has one vehicle, I'm not going to reach out to them, right? Has not been the case at all. I think you can get in trouble when you start to put the face of like, hey, we're bigger than what we are, especially from an insurance perspective. So you want to make sure that you kind of lean into where you are in your business, and having one vehicle does not discourage you from posting that vehicle on the website, especially if you're in front of a hospital or you're actually doing like action shots where you're like, hey, I'm actually showing an image of me taking a person off my wheelchair, right? So that stuff is very important.
Yeah, and like you said, I often talk to owners who feel intimidated, like, oh, I'm just starting, I have one vehicle and my competitor has 20 vehicles. And like, let me tell you, like, you, the owner operator, are doing a much better quality ride and service than like the 20th driver they hired. And somebody's leaving, getting rehired every 3 months, and they don't really care. You're devoted to your business, you're devoted to your customers. Ask them for the Google review, because they're going to have a great time, and pretty soon, like, you can get regular customers locked in who will only ride with you and will tell all their friends, like, hey, instead of that kind of corporate experience where they showed up 45 minutes late, ride with this.
We have a client of ours out of Houston called Med Transit Pro. You can look them up on Google. They started their business maybe May, June. They're already up to 48, 50 plus positive reviews, and they have one vehicle, right? So regardless of whether or not they have 6 or 10 vehicles, their competitors have 6 or 10 vehicles, they're still competing with those companies because people read and see, oh, I don't care if they got one vehicle, they give great service. And that's what's most important to the consumer.
100%.
Yep.
So I think we've gone through 4. The 5th must-have would be, tell me about the quote or the booking form that you have on your website.
Yeah, I actually have a bonus one for you that we'll talk about here as well. But the booking form, so very important. So booking forms are essentially a way. They're really the hook, right? We want people to fill out the booking form in order for us to get back with them on a quote or follow up with them about additional information about how the service works. So very important that the booking form is not a full collection of all the data points that we need to service a ride, right? I've seen some crazy stuff in terms of stuff that we're collecting just to get a quote. We want to make it as easy as possible for somebody to do business with you, right? So that quote request form that you have needs to have enough information, right? So name, date of ride, time they want to be picked up, where they're going, origin, destination, whether it's one way or round trip. When you start to get into a lot more detail than some of the basic stuff, customers really start to look at that lengthy form and say, okay, some people will actually call instead. So that's a good thing. But the other side of the coin is like, hey, I came to this person's website. They got about 30 questions on here for me to get a quote. I'm gonna go check out the other competitor's website, see if it's easier for me to get a quote from them, right? So having that balance or understanding what that balance is in terms of how many questions you need to ask to make it easier to do business with you is very, very important. Usually when customers see even the booking forms that have like page 1 and it goes to page 4, right? And they can't see like all the additional questions. Sometimes that also deters them because they're like, oh, I got to fill out 4 pages worth of questions to get a quote, right? That kind of defeats the purpose of having a quote request form on your website. We want it to be easy. Hey, give us a little bit of information. We'll call you, follow up with you and say, hey, here's a quote. for what you provided, then we can ask, hey, are there any other things that we may be aware of? Do you need help with the stairs? How many steps is it, right? So that type of information sometimes is best suited to be taken after you've got them on a hook. Like, okay, they put their information in. They're obviously interested in the service. Let's give them a call.
Yeah. And I think you can also save yourself a lot of time and grief by using a form that integrates with your CRM or your dispatch software, right? Like
Absolutely.
we have a Duet sort of booking form you can attach to the Book Now button on your website. When they fill it out, it drops the details right into your Duet account. You can decide, hey, do I want to accept this trip or do I want to decline this trip?
Exactly.
I'm sure it does the same thing. If you're using a CRM like Transport CRM, sends it to your CRM. Once you're done there, for any software it integrates with, like we integrate with Transport CRM,
it's those same details. Exactly.
Yeah, then it just sends all the details to your dispatching software. And nowhere in that process are you manually copy pasting or retyping and maybe making mistakes that will cause billing issues later.
Yeah, for sure. That form is, because that's the gateway, right? If they're not calling you, the gateway into them, you collecting their information or collecting that lead is the form. So the form needs to be something that's easy to submit. So that's the reason why we focus on that form. And then also kind of above that form, we like to have like some type of instructions like, hey, submit a request, confirm your ride details, and then enjoy your, like, just kind of give them not a timeline, but kind of a step-by-step what happens during the quoting process, so they understand, okay, first step is submitting this form, and then they're going to contact me and I'll have a chance to accept or decline it. So there's a lot of, just from an aesthetic standpoint around the booking form that you can put some additional details as well.
Yeah. And to dig a little deeper on this, you said we want to keep the booking form as short as possible, or the quote form at least. What information exactly do you really need to get?
Yeah. So this is going to be company specific, but I would say at a minimum, name, phone, email, right? Because you want to be able to get in contact with them. The date and time of the trip, the time, if they know what time they want to be picked up, have that there as well. Origin address, destination address, want to know whether it's a one-way or round trip. And then obviously type of service and type of ride. So I need to know if it's wheelchair or ambulatory for sure. And I need to know if you're going a one-way or round trip, right? So those are kind of like the minimum details that I like to collect. And then if you start to see like, hey, this form is converting pretty well, I want to add another thing in here where I can say, oh, how many do you need help with stairs or something like that, right? You can start to add some of that additional detail in there. But what I really start to see people get in trouble with is honestly, weight is a really sensitive field that a lot of people are like, hey, I want to collect your weight. Usually I like to say, when you're choosing the type of service, whether it's wheelchair, ambulatory, make sure if you're doing bariatric, make sure you include bariatric as a selection choice, so they don't have to actually enter their weight. Because if somebody chooses bariatric, obviously we know, hey, they may be over a certain weight limit, and we have to adjust for that. But just kind of blindly saying, hey, put your weight in here, a lot of people kind of get turned off by that, or they may not even know. If I'm coordinating for my mom, I'm like, I don't really know her weight, right? And if you have it as a required field, I'm like, okay, I can't submit. Or I'm going to put something bogus in there anyway, just to get it through the through the gate. So kind of having that stuff collected on the back end is more important than saying, hey, I know you want bariatric, but now I need your exact weight. It's not really important at that point in time. So just being sensitive to the consumer, but also understanding what are the minimum requirements for my business in order for me to be able to get that information.
Yeah, and Reliance Medical Transport makes a really good point. Like, you can ask, are you above or below the threshold? In this case, 200 pounds. Whether that's, I see the argument for not having that on the form and just asking that on the confirmation call, but that's a very tactful way to do it. And if they're 400 pounds, they know the deal. They know they need to warn you.
Yeah, for sure. So having that, or Hey Chowdery, that's our customer out of California there. But yeah, having that someplace for you to be able to know, but not like, okay, yeah, give me exact weight of how much you weigh. So that's important as well, at least for the quote. So you still need to collect the weight. If they're bariatric, you still want to collect the information, when you follow up with the customer. But just to get them on the hook to say, hey, I want to request a quote for a bariatric trip, right? You want to be sensitive to that.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Chowdhury. So This is maybe starting to get into the realm of like a little bit, maybe less of an exact answer, but what are your thoughts on having like a clickable phone number and how important that is relative to like a clickable booking form?
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned before, 80% of your traffic is going to be coming from a mobile device. So for them to see the number and have to like copy and paste it and then go to the phone, like if you're on an iPhone, go to the phone and paste it in, the click to call button is the easiest way to do business. Like they see a number, they press it, iPhone or Android says, do you want to call this number? They call it. So yeah, that is very important to have a high converting website. You have those click to call actions, whether it's a phone number and they click it or it has a button that says call now and they hit the call now button and actually starts to call you directly from that number.
Awesome. Let's see. So I think here's a question. What are your thoughts on people who have sort of live quoting on the website? Like you put in some basic information and yeah, this trip will be $90.
That was actually my bonus giveaway. It was like, hey, pricing. So my question, so I get a lot of questions like, hey, do I show my pricing or don't I show my pricing? So I have and this is just our opinion as a company. So we have a question that we ask and that will prompt us whether or not we show it. So I usually ask, is your pricing lower or at market expectations, right? If it's lower, I always say, okay, we can probably use it as a selling point, right? So we want to display our pricing because our selling point is like, hey, we're cheaper than the competition, right? If we are providing a premium service, right, and let's say we have 25% above, market rates, we're adding full service medical concierge, right? We want to make sure that we're still able to get that person to fill out that quote form without giving them the exact price of how much it's going to cost. Because a lot of times what I see with some of the more premium providers is that they'll have their pricing posted and nobody will ever fill out the form because they're like, man, this is $400 more than the competition. And you never have the opportunity to explain your level of service or even negotiate from that point, right? So if you are providing a premium service, your prices are higher than the competition. Technically, I would not, this is our opinion, I would not post my rates online for them to see. Now, if you're at market rate or below market rate, usually you can say, hey, we can usually install a widget on the website where it's like, hey, tell us what your mileage is. We'll tell you, hey, this is a ballpark figure of what you could potentially pay. But we still want that person to be going through the quote request form because there's always additional details that you don't normally get through, just having somebody fill out the form. So you want to make sure that you have all the correct information when people are submitting that pricing, because with providing an estimate on the website, you always want to say, hey, this is an estimate. This is not your final value. It is dependent upon other details about the trip, right? So you just want to give people ballpark figures. But it's also important to understand the market dynamics, right? Because your competitors can see your pricing as well as undercut it. So our opinion is like, hey, if you're at market value or underneath market value and your rates are your selling point, okay, why not have your selling point on the website so people can understand like we're cheaper than the competition? So that's just our opinion on that.
That's really reasonable.
Yep.
So let's talk about actually converting like website visitors into booked trips. When people call in or they fill out a form, maybe let's start with the form. How soon should you be calling them back? Should you be calling them back? Should you just email them back? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So this is important. So we've been doing this. We've run hundreds of ads. Like that's all we do it every day in and in Y. So if you do not call a customer back with a quote or email them back with a quote within 2 hours, they've already called your competition to kind of figure out what the next step is going to be. So I always encourage people to get a quote back to a customer within the first 30 minutes, especially if you have a dispatch, who's kind of handling that side of it for you. But if you're a one-man operation, the most important part of your business outside of giving good service is telling people what the price of the service is going to be so they can pay for it, right? So I would say no more than 2 hours for sure, but the faster you get people the pricing, the faster they can make a decision on whether or not they want to use the service. So that's a very, very important piece of this whole process.
Completely agree.
Also to add on to that, so not only providing like the pricing in a timely fashion, but also when people call you, how professional are you when you pick up the phone, right? How fast are you getting the quotes back? How competitive is your pricing, right? All that plays a role into you converting that lead into an actual paid ride. So just some of the basic stuff that you need to have for any business, right? Professionalism, affordability, right? And access to the service is really important.
Yeah. And then talk to me. So, sometimes people are going to call, and, sometimes they call on like a 10 p.m. on a Sunday or something, and like or you're driving and you can't pick up the phone.
Yep.
Talk to me about the best ways to handle that.
So what we do as a company, we actually have a feature called missed call text back. So if we're running ads for your business, we'll usually put the number, we'll change the number on the actual ad. So when they call it, is a number that has that missed call text back feature. So when you don't pick up the phone, the customer automatically gets a text message that says, hey, we're serving other customers. Can we give you a call back in 10 minutes, right? Whatever you want that pre-message to be. So that's one way of doing it. These days, we also have voice AI as a backup. So if you're like, hey, I want voice AI to pick up the phone when I can't pick it up, right? Especially if people are calling after hours, they kind of sometimes expect not to reach a real person. But if they have a question, they want to get it handled after hours. Those are the two ways that we've seen work. Obviously, you can always just call them back yourself when you get free. But it just kind of depends on the volume of calls that you're getting after hours, if it makes sense to have a missed call text back or have a voice AI kind of handle that call.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big opportunity, because again, these people will often, if they don't hear from you, they're probably just going to go to the next person on Google and call them. You've got the voice AI in the transport CRM. We've got the voice AI in Duet. Like there's no reason there's lots of good voice AIs out there.
Absolutely.
I think our two are some of the best available in NEMT, because you want something that's sort of NEMT aware, like a
exactly that has that human feel for sure.
Yeah.
That's important. It just depends on your volume, right? I would say people sometimes like the Medicare, Medicaid mindset. Sometimes it's hard to shift away from that and understand, hey, you're dealing with people who are paying out of pocket. They have choices, right? you have to roll out the red carpet, right? Hey, I gotta answer the phone immediately. I gotta call you back. I gotta give you quotes quickly, right? Because they have options. They don't have to use you. They're choosing to use you or reach out to you because they've seen, they like what they've seen from what they've seen off your website. So kind of making sure that you understand Medicare, Medicaid versus private pay, completely different business models, completely different strategy that you have to have, especially from a customer service standpoint as well.
Yeah. Is there any common mistakes you see that a NEMT that's used to providing Medicaid runs into when it's switching to private pay customers?
Sometimes I see people giving too cheap of rates because they're used to like, hey, I usually only get $1.50 per mile. Like private pay usually is a little bit more. You can make a little bit more margin on private pay because you're not susceptible of, hey, my broker only reached out to me because I accepted the lowest ball offer, right? So making sure you understand your pricing, your market pricing in your area for private pay is also important. So that's one of the kind of mistakes I see when people are transitioning from that is, hey, I'm not charging the right value for my service. And then I would say what we mentioned before, just understanding like, hey, these are people paying out of pocket, right? You have to cater to them because they will go to the competition, right? And also kind of like going to a new restaurant, right? When I take my wife to a new restaurant, I may mention, hey, we're going to go here. The first thing she does is go to Yelp to figure out what this place is and what people say about it. So that same mindset goes into private pay when people are looking for transportation options. They see even if they see your ad, they may just say, okay, I see a company here. Let me go check out the reviews. So understanding that in order to consistently attract private pay, you have to have some type of mechanism that people can read through the reviews and understand what other people say about using your service. They don't have to do that on the broker side, right, because those rides are being fed to you through a broker.
Yeah, I always say like you're really in a service business on the private pay side, like even more so than like transport, medical, all this stuff.
Yeah, even more so.
To make people feel good about working with people.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about a new provider who they don't have a website. They're trying to decide how to build one. There's options today. Like you can hack something together with Claude or ChatGPT yourself. for the price of a monthly subscription. You can go to a specialist, someone like you who's, does NEMT websites. You can go build a super custom thing, spend $4,000 on a really custom setup. Walk me through like the value props and when you would recommend people take which approach.
I recommend that you come to us every single time. No, really, we build websites for a living, so we know the process. There's a lot that goes into a website, not only the face of the website, right? Like here's the content, here's my page, but everything has to be registered with Google. You have to make sure that the site SEO is done correctly. So I would say if you're really, if you're trying to just have like a storefront where people can like see you, on the road and go to a page and figure out what you do, yeah, you can build a website yourself. I would make sure that you have the elements that we talked about today if you're going to do it. There's a lot of AI software out here today that actually build you a website, a good looking website. And we've seen some really, really good looking websites that are done through AI. But AI is only good as the prompt that you give it. So if you don't give it enough information to provide on the website, it won't do it. So that's the reason why we're having this session today. So if people want to actually build their own website, make sure it has the 5 or 6 elements that we talked about today, which are really, really important. Because like if you come to us as an agency and say, hey, I want to do marketing for my business, the first thing we're going to say, hey, where's your website? And if your website isn't up to snuff, we're going to say, okay, we're going to charge you because we have to redo it. Or if you've got it done and it's great, it looks good, we're going to say, yep, it looks good. It has all the elements that it needs. We can start the advertising process as soon as possible. So making sure that your website has all the elements that we talked about today helps us be able to turn those ads on a lot quicker for you, because we don't have to go through this whole audit process of, hey, the website doesn't have this, we have to add it, right? So it just helps it speeds up your time to market a lot easier if you make sure that website is done correctly.
Is it, in terms of things that people come in, 5-year-old website, things are wrong with it, is it mainly like these missing 5 or 6 elements, or is there anything else that you see people?
It's usually a lot of times it's the aesthetic. So we have the ability with our software to actually clone and redesign a new website 24 hours, right? It's through an AI program, right? We can take an existing URL and say, hey, redesign the website to make it more modern, because we know that aesthetics change over time, right? What looked great 10 years ago does not look great now. So in order to stay always competing in your market, you have to take a step back and say, hey, does my website look modern enough where like I got the content all there, but from an aesthetic standpoint, does it look like, okay, yeah, this is a modern company, on the forefront of technology. So we just make sure that if you come to us, even if you have a 5-year-old website, we can usually give you some pointers and say, hey, we will probably tweak this or update this or clone it to make it a little bit better. So you definitely have options today for sure. A lot cheaper options for updating a website than you had, I would even say 3 years ago, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. What are your thoughts on like WordPress versus something more AI native like Astro or React or something?
Yeah, WordPress does have its advantages from a SEO perspective. And that's only saying that today as of August 12th, right? I mean, the AI stuff is moving so fast. Like we have it now so there's a difference between like what we call server side rendering versus pre-rendering, right? So a lot of the AI sites, I would say a year ago, did not have server side rendering and like a lot of different HTML stuff. In today's environment, all that stuff is there now. So it's only getting better. I do believe WordPress does have the ability on the AI side to even create websites using AI, but WordPress is really, when it was built, it was a professional website development tool for people who are in the intricacies, who know the technical details of a website. A lot of what AI has done is try to streamline that process so you still get the same benefits of a professional website designer building on WordPress, but now they're streamlining that process so any Jane or Joe can go and build their own website and kind of leverage some of those same tools. But I would say it's close. It's close between WordPress and AI. It's becoming closer and closer. If you have an existing WordPress website and it's performing well, I wouldn't necessarily switch to an AI website. I would just kind of get their website revamped from an aesthetic standpoint. But if you're really looking to kind of save that money from a professional standpoint, the AI websites, as long as you have like the amount of pages that you need, it's usually not too much difference. And then the SEO stuff in terms of ranking organically on the Google platform or any other search platform, it takes time, right? So even if you create a WordPress website a month ago, it's not going to rank day one. It just takes time to get those websites ranking correctly.
Yeah, and just to be clear for anyone who's new to website building, like these are different sort of platforms you can design your website on, like HTML, WordPress, Astro, React, etc. Harry, do you recommend people like grab the domain, like www.duetinc.com right away, and then sort out the website thing, or do you recommend should they also buy hosting? And people can go to, there's a 1,000 different hosting services out there, or is it better to just pick up the domain and then talk to a website person and let them
I actually don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. A lot of it is when people first start their businesses, they want the professional email, so they end up buying the domain. So now they can have like the info@medicaltransport.com. So that domain name is bought. And if you're going to use that same domain for your website, technically you already bought the domain. You just need to connect the website to that domain now. But I actually don't have a preference on whether or not you buy it before the website begins. I know in our software, we actually buy and host domains. So we can buy a domain through Transport CRM and it'll live there. We handle all the DNS records, all that stuff is housed there. So we're actually physically hosting that domain on our platform. So you necessarily don't need to go out and buy a hostinger unless you absolutely want to. But yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong way in terms of what order you should do that. I think the professional email piece of it is usually the deciding factor on whether or not you're going to buy that domain name first or wait on the website to be built.
Yeah, that checks out in my experience too. So I want to make sure we save some time for questions. Feel free to drop questions in the chat, anyone, if you're listening and we haven't answered your questions yet. I also have a couple more questions and want to ask Harry a few more things. So we're not going to run out of content for you.
I'll get that.
So Harry, first of all, where should people find you if they want to chat with you after this talk?
Osborne Digital, NEMT.com is our website. We also have our software website, NEMTCRM.com. Either one of those websites will get you all to the same place. If you're curious about our website design process, you can go to either of those websites and schedule a free consultation. We'll walk you through the entire process. But I will put the website in the chat, and I believe they can see it if I put it in here. But you'll have to connect to YouTube. I'll send it to you, and then you can post the URL in there if you need to. But on our website, a lot of information, a lot of interviews that we've done about just marketing in general. So there's a lot of good data or information on our website as well. So if you are curious about breaking into private pay and want to understand what all marketing you need to do and what all is available to you, take a look at our website.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat for anyone watching.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to start going through my list of questions, but please, anyone, feel free to interrupt me here. What can you give me an example of, like, you've worked with 100 clients? What's like the biggest single change you did to someone's website that had the biggest impact?
Reviews is by far, because you can have a great looking website, but if people come to it and they're like, I'm not sure if anybody's used this service before. I don't want to be your guinea pig, right? People hate being the first customer. So making sure that I see so many, like, I think I met with a client today or yesterday that they've been in business for 10 years. They had great reviews. Like, they had 5-star, probably like 60 or 70 reviews, and none of them were on the website. So I'm like, okay, you got all these people that are saying great things about you, and you don't make sure that people know that when they land on the website. That's one of probably the most easily impactful things you can do today, is make sure that your reviews get on that website so people know, hey, this is a reputable company, and I feel comfortable reaching out to them because I know they give good service.
Yeah, and you can, I think something like Transport CRM that's pulling reviews from Google, Facebook, Yelp, whatever is amazing. if you're not using Transport CRM, you can also go and you can grab the link from Google. You can ask an AI, how do I embed, Google reviews in my website? And again, it's not going to have all the features, may not be able to filter out low reviews, but it's very doable. There's no excuse for not, at the very least, write out your favorite 5 reviews.
Very least screenshot it. I don't care.
Exactly. A screenshot and put a link to the Google review page so people can check out the rest of it. It doesn't have to be. It can be as lovely and complicated as you want, but it can also be pretty simple if you need it.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
So another question. Thinking about this sort of header one, like the biggest text, the first thing they see when they go to the website, what should that text say? I know there's sort of differing philosophies, and I've seen this text say, all kinds of different things on different NEMT websites.
Yeah, I mean, the most common thing you'll see is reliable, reliable non-emergency transportation. That headline one is important. I usually like the headline one to be the service that you or the audience that you want to appeal to most. So if you're like, hey, I really just want to focus on wheelchair transportation, I want to say wheelchair, reliable, whatever adjective you want to use, like wheelchair transportation services in XYZ place, right? I think the headline one saying what you do, where you do it is important, because when people go to Google, they search wheelchair transportation Dallas. Google is saying, okay, let me try to match what person has searched to what's on the websites, right? So it's your headline one matches that, right? You have a better chance of ranking more organically. There's a lot of stuff that goes into ranking organically, but headline one I think is really important to having what you do, I would say the service you want to appeal to most, and then of course the location of where you do it.
Yeah, and actually that's almost like a 6th or 7th thing on the list is the service area, the location where you're based, right? Because I'm demoing to different NEMT companies. I haven't met them in person. I look them up. I'm sometimes looking through the whole website and I can't figure out what city they're in, what state they're in, even. How is Google going to find you if you don't put that information on your website?
I even like having the service area, even if sometimes we'll embed a map, or we'll embed, if you service different counties, we'll have service areas and list all those counties out. Because people want to know, okay, do they service where I'm at, right? But if they have to read through your whole entire website to figure out, oh yeah, they do service my community, it's usually they probably already lost interest in going to the next company.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to have them clicking through different pages trying to find where your service map is. You want that pretty clearly on the homepage.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And I think you cannot go wrong saying wheelchair transportation in Houston, Texas, reliable wheelchair transportation in Houston, Texas, because then Google knows exactly what you are, what you do, who to show it to, and people who show up on your website also instantly recognize this is what I need, and it's going to serve my area. That's the 2 top questions they're going to have.
Exactly. And you can use whatever adjective you want to describe your business, like reliable, affordable, right? That stuff is in the noise. Don't get caught up in every company has nobody cares, right? We're just making sure that whatever adjective you choose, make sure you have the service that you want people to know you do the most and where you do it, because that part is important, not only for the consumer, but in actually ranking that site and showing it correctly when people are looking for the service.
So here's a question a client asked me the other day. Is it worth it to have a video on your website, like a driver helping someone into a vehicle?
I love videos. Especially in what's called the hero section. If you want a video in the background, now most of the time that video is usually if you have it in the hero section, it's only going to be visible on the desktop version. So I also recommend having another video where it can actually be seen on mobile. But yes, I think videos are really, really good because it gives people you can't dispute that, right? Hey, there's AI videos, but if you have an actual video of you servicing a client, and that's when we talk about those professional services where it's a photo shoot or a quick video reel of you actually providing service in your community. I think that stuff is invaluable. It only helps the website convert better because people can see that level of detail and kind of know what to expect when they hire you for the service. I really like people because I like people that I always tell people lean into it. Social media is great with Instagram. People can go to those pages, but you can embed your social media content on your page if you want to. It just helps convert that traffic a lot better, so they don't have to go to Instagram and see what you're doing. You can say, hey, check out our videos of us service in the community. And people can see that, and they actually connect to that very well.
Yeah, I love that. I think even post, you don't have to, put out constant content on Instagram, but you put one video a month on Instagram, you're at least showing people like, hey, we're active in the community, we're real people, real vehicles, we're not going to scam you. I think it's
especially if you're going to have a bunch of AI images, at least have a video of you doing what you actually say you're doing. But sometimes I think people get a little bit caught up on like, do I show that I'm the face of the business? Do I you're in business, like people are going to figure out it's you eventually. So you might as well lean into it now and kind of make sure people see who you are, because that people connect to that.
I feel like I'm every single operator who comes to me and they're making a new website and they show me what they have, I feel like I'm hyping them up, being like, no, put your picture on there and right up here. You've told me this incredible story about how, you helped your sick relative who was in a wheelchair for 5 years, and you're doing this because you care about your community. You've lived here for 30 years. Like, put that story on your website, like in the About Us section. Like, put yourself out there. People want to ride from you. That's how you stand out from the 20 corporate van companies.
Exactly. People connect to stories, right? So if you have a great story, put it there. Say, here's who I am. And if you go to our website, you'll see my face plastered everywhere, because like I'm not trying to hide who we are and what we do. I'm like, yeah, this is me. You take it or leave it, but this is my business, and this is what I do. So I would say lean into it in all cases.
100%. Yep. So I think I got one, maybe two more questions. I know we're about out on time. How do you measure things? How do you know the website is working?
Yeah. So when we like, if you're not doing like an advertising campaign, like obviously you're measuring those conversions, but you can install Google Analytics on your website, so you can understand how people are behaving when they get to the website. So what Google Analytics is, it's a line of code you install on the website. It can track what pages people are going to. It can actually track when people are leaving the website. It can track how much time people spend on one page. So over time, as you have those analytics, you can see, hey, people usually get to my services page and they leave the site. So that over time, you can use that and say, okay, do I need to provide better information on my services page? Do I need to revamp my services page? Because what you want to happen, you want people to go homepage, figure out the services, book a ride, right? You kind of want that order to flow. So if you see some of those pages people aren't spending a lot of time on, it's probably because it's either aesthetically not there or it doesn't have the information that they're looking for. So we always encourage you to get the Google Analytics installed on your website. I wouldn't pay too much attention to it the first month, but over time, you can start to really make some really good decisions on what I should do from a design standpoint based on some of those analytics.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's worth putting in even just for the website, and then it does a huge amount of work if you're running Google ads, because you can actually see which ads are working, which ones are.
Yep.
All right. Well, Harry, thanks so much. Is there anything else you'd want to add? Maybe like one specific takeaway you'd like to see people put into practice?
Really take the time to understand. I know we talked about like the top 5, but really understand, put some time and effort into the website, especially if you're going to do it yourself. The website, in terms of private pay, is literally the face of your business, right? If somebody looks up your business, you can't talk to them right then and there. The only thing they can do is go to your website. So your website has to literally be an extension if you were telling that person about your business. So really putting that time and effort into that website and making sure that it has all the details that people need in order to make a decision is probably what I would leave you with. In today's world, whether you're doing it yourself or having a professional do it, I think it's important that person understands the industry. And if they don't understand the industry, you need to communicate to them that, hey, these are the details that I absolutely need to have on my website. So just kind of leaning into it and really taking the time to put that information succinctly on that website is very important.
Yep. Could not agree more. I'm so happy to have you here, Harry. People, if you're watching, check out Osborne Digital, Harry Chambers, fantastic at websites and all other forms of marketing for NEMT. Harry, thanks again for joining us, and I'm sure we'll see you on here next time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited about what we're doing together with Duet and Transport CRM and Osborne Digital, and we'll be having more videos. We're trying to come up with a series where we can kind of talk through some additional marketing things related to marketing for private pay as well. So definitely be on the lookout. If you haven't followed or subscribed to Duet's page, definitely do that, because we're going to be coming out with more and more content here in the next couple months.
Yeah, and Harry, you've got your own YouTube channel with some great content.
Yep, Osborne Digital. If you want to check us out, we're always kind of putting some stuff on there as well. So I think this is great. I think it's a great opportunity to have some real honest conversations about private pay, about marketing that people usually don't get. So I'm looking forward to the opportunities.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.